into it. Mr. Smith, you're up first. More impressive night. Would you go with Harden or Zion?
I'm going to go with Harden. And the reason why I'm going to go with Harden, believe it or not, is not just the fact that it was the fact that he did not commit one single turnover. I want to repeat that. James Harden finished the night with 30 points, 15 assists, 14 rebounds in 44 minutes played on 52% shooting from the field, 43% shooting from three-point range, and did not commit a single turnover. Just think about that for a second. Not a single turnover. This man right here is playing at an MVP caliber level. And then when we look at the evidence and we see, unfortunately, my brother Stephen Silas struggling in Houston as a rookie head coach, first time he's ever been a head coach after 20 years as an assistant. This guy, Stephen Silas, and the Houston Rockets have lost 12 straight. They're one of the worst teams in basketball at this particular moment in time, and obviously that has a lot to do with the fact that James Harden is no longer wearing a Houston Rockets uniform. But then you see him go to Brooklyn. Kyrie's gone, no problem. KD's gone, no problem. Still in all, James Harden, even though Kyrie played last night, shows up against a San Antonio Spurs team that's still a playoff team. They're not a scrub team. And this brother plays 44 minutes, drops a 30-point triple-double, shoots better than 50% from the field, better than 40% from three-point range, and doesn't commit one single turnover. It doesn't get closer to perfect than that. Zion's a stud, but he wasn't perfect. James Harden last night was pretty close to perfect. That's why I say more impressive night was for Harden.
James Harden's better than Zion Williamson. He had a better night last night than Zion Williamson. And I'll even go you one better, Stephen A. For the first time in James Harden's career, through the MVP, through the near MVPs, through everything he's ever done, averaging 30 whatever points and everything, for the first time in his career, I get the feeling like I might be watching the best player in basketball when I watch Harden. I've never felt that way before. He's got that glow. He's got the Last Dragon glow right now, Stephen A. He's playing at a whole different level.
And there's no show enough to stop him.
That's right. Show enough. Yeah, that's right. He's more like Bruce Leroy right now. Look, he's amazing. But I was more impressed by Zion last night. And I was more impressed by Zion last night because he's a 20-year-old kid. He is man strong and big and all that stuff and has real maturity beyond his years. But most people who are 20 are not done with college yet. He is a 20-year-old kid doing that in the NBA. And what exactly did he do? Last night, against the best team in basketball this year so far, who's been crushing everybody, right? What happens? The Jazz are up. You're coming into the second half. They already got the lead, and now comes the avalanche. All the open shooters. It's over. And what I saw was a team led by Zion Williamson imposing their will on the Jazz. Not the Jazz or the Avalanche, but Zion Williamson is more physically the manifestation of an actual avalanche. And in this NBA, Stephen A., where it's hard to be like a kind of Shaq-like physical presence and just impose that, he did it to the Utah Jazz and led his team. And I gotta tip my cap to Stan Van Gundy because Zion Williamson is playing point forward. And so I just brought up the fact that he can muscle his way inside, but he is not only a willing passer, he has real court vision. And the fact that Van Gundy has given him the freedom to grab the rebound, run the floor, make a play, he's doing it. So for a 20-year-old kid built like Zion, right, to be able to do that in this modern NBA to the Utah Jazz is, to me, the most impressive thing I saw in the NBA last night, and that includes James Harden.
Well, I understand where you're coming from because Zion Williamson had a big night. Obviously, it was against the Utah Jazz, and what I'm most impressed by watching him is his quickness. He's really quick. I mean, he's got that first step. He's got some speed, but he's also got some quickness, some acceleration. And when you look at it from that perspective, and then you consider the power, the strength, just the mass of this young man, the sky's the limit for him as long as he can stay healthy. And God help anybody if he plays, with a little bit more ambidextrous skills, where he uses both hands instead of just his left. God help everybody once that happens, if he stays healthy, because he's definitely got the heart. He ain't scared of anything. He's scaring everybody else. He's incredibly impressive, no doubt about it. And it's also hurting John Morant from the standpoint that we know that John Morant can ball. We're proud of the fact that he's Rookie of the Year, but every time you see Zion, you recognize that if Zion had been healthy, John Morant would not have been Rookie of the Year. That's pretty easy to surmise. But in the end, still in all, when you look at the Utah Jazz, one of the top shooting three-point team in the league, they shot 17 of 43 from three-point range last night. You look at Mike Conley Jr., didn't have that good of a night. Look at Donovan Mitchell. He shot 7 of 21 from the field. He didn't have that good of a night. So it wasn't really their night. And you got to give New Orleans credit, because their defense has been horrid, and they've been trying to improve upon that. And last night they prioritized that to some degree. So Stan Van Gundy deserves a lot of credit in that regard as well, because we all know the man can coach. But in the end, still in all, I don't think that compares to Harden. 30, 15, 14, on 50% shooting from the field, 42% shooting from three-point range, 44 minutes played, and not one single turnover in 44 minutes.
Harden had a better night.
Point guard. I can't ignore that.
Harden had the better night, and I think the strongest part of your argument is the no turnovers. Like, for a guy to play 44 minutes, to be the primary ball handler, to orchestrate the offense, to have a triple-double with 30-something points, and not to turn the ball over is extremely impressive. We're talking about two very impressive performances last night. Zion Williamson was taking it to Rudy Gobert. He was taking it to Rudy Gobert. There was nothing anyone could do. That's the number one guy you'd want probably in the league, in the paint, to try to stop him. There was no stopping him. You talk about Zion's quickness, and you could talk about him off the dribble, and he has better handles than given credit for, and he has enough wiggle in his game to be successful at this level as a wide body. What about his quickness to grab the board off his own misses? I'm trying to think. I think it's the quickest I've ever seen. In other words, a guy goes up in the paint, he puts the ball up, he doesn't get it to go. Zion gets back up off the floor faster than anyone I've ever seen, and does it with crazy hops. He was considering the team they played, considering his age, considering his responsibilities in the offense now, considering the way the game was going and the momentum and what felt like the inevitable. The Jazz are always the ones who make the halftime adjustments, and then here it comes. And they were already winning in the game. By the way, I didn't mention this. Considering this is a Zion Williamson-led team, and the Jazz did come back. Of course they eventually surged back, and the Pelicans held them off in a night of amazing performances, both by Zion and Harden. I was most impressed. Not arguing it was the best performance. I was most impressed by the 20-year-old, Zion Williamson.
Last time I checked, when we asked what was more impressive, you're talking about what was the better performance, and you've already conceded that James Harden, which means you're just talking because you want to hear your voice. You want to hear your own voice. You already know I'm right. You already know I'm right. You know I'm right. Just
more impressive.
It's okay, Max. It's all right to just look at the camera and say, Stephen A. Absolutely right. That's all you have to say.
What's so impressive about Tom Brady in the Super Bowl? He's 43 years old.
There's not hard things to do. You already said, Stephen A. You're absolutely right.
Tom Brady getting the combo.
The point is, I'm pointing out age and circumstances. Why it impresses me.
Record-breaking night.
Oh, you got under my skin just then, Stephen A. Smith.
Admit you're wrong. I'm right.
All right, let's just move on. Guys, Harden isn't the only one who... J.J. Watt joining his former teammate DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona, reaching a 2-year deal. A source telling Adam Schefter the deal's worth $31 million, 23 guaranteed. Kyler Murray tweeting out this photo with Watt and Karl Anthony Towns. Meanwhile, our Ed Werder tweeting this: I was told J.J. Watt's first criteria in choosing his team would be the quality of the quarterback. So this seems like an endorsement for Kyler Murray. By the way, Kyler, just a young buck there, senior in high school about 6 years ago. Max?
Yep.
Is J.J. Watt closer to elite or average?
Now, I have to admit something about this. How much did I really know about what J.J. Watt did last year? Let me be honest about this, okay? When am I watching the Texans? Really? Well, I have it on, when they're in the red zone and Deshaun Watson's about to score, then I watch the Texans, right? Because it pops up, I watch the Texans. And I watch Deshaun Watson. How often am I analyzing the defense? I saw J.J. Watt play last year, Stephen A., and it looked to me like he was probably closer to average than elite. Could still play. But I got to tell you something. When I saw him sign this $23 million guaranteed, the guarantee is $23 million, I said, excuse me. That dude is being paid like he's closer to elite than average. Let me look at this. And as it turns out, J.J. Watt, in terms of his win percentage for his matchup, is elite. He's top 10. He wins his matchup more than almost anyone else in football at his position when he's on the field. Now, injuries have been a concern, but when he's on the field, he is not just closer to elite, you might say he's still elite. Just because he's not what he was at his prime doesn't mean he's not elite. In his prime, he was in the top, uppermost tier of greatest front seven players who ever lived. Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, Bruce Smith, Aaron Donald. J.J. Watt is right there with those guys in his prime. So just because he's fallen off, don't mean he's fallen off closer to average. He's still, as it turns out, closer to elite than average, and that's why he got paid.
Me personally, I have no problem with him getting paid. He's a future Hall of Famer. When you think about guys with the most sacks since 2012, Chandler Jones is number one. J.J. Watt is number two. This brother is a future Hall of Famer. Make no mistake about it. We know how formidable he is. We also know what a leader he is, and we also know what a leader in the community he is. I'm a huge fan of J.J. Watt, and I believe he will be elite. But basically, right now, at this point in time, he appears to be closer to average than elite. I don't think that will last. I think that he was contaminated by being a member of the Texans organization, a part of all of that nonsense that was going on within that organization, which is universally recognized right now as one of the worst organizations in all of football, which is why Deshaun Watson wants out, which is why J.J. Watt went and apologized to Deshaun Watson, because he recognizes the cesspool that he was a part of. He wanted out, and he knows that Deshaun Watson deserves out. But that doesn't take away from the fact that he's had 9 sacks over the last 2 years, that he hasn't been the dude that we've known him to be, that registered about 18 sacks in 2018. I'm not saying that'll last. I believe in J.J. Watt, and I believe that he will make a difference in Arizona. Here's where I think he also kind of blew it, though. J.J. Watt clearly wants to be in a position to compete for a Super Bowl championship. I'm not saying that can't happen with Arizona. But if you're predicting that Arizona's going to do it ahead of the other options that he had available to him, whether it was Pittsburgh, whether it was Green Bay, or another team, I would dare challenge anybody on that. In the NFC West, where you've got Seattle, you've got the Los Angeles Rams with their elite defense and Matthew Stafford there instead of Jared Goff. You got Jimmy Garoppolo coming back with Deebo Samuels, with George Kittle and others, and Kyle Shanahan coaching that team. Bigger things are expected of the San Francisco 49ers. So you got 3 teams within the division that are considered better than you. Now, does that mean you won't improve and you won't leapfrog over one of them? Sure. What's the likelihood of you leapfrogging over all 3 of them? I sincerely doubt it. So in that regard, I would say J.J. Watt might have gone to the wrong team, because at this stage and point in his career, he clearly wants to compete for a Super Bowl championship. And although there's parity in the National Football League, you can stick up the joint one year and go to the Super Bowl the next year. And we understand that with Arizona, it's definitely possible. I've got some questions about Kingsbury. I don't have those questions about Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray can ball, but I got questions about Kingsbury. He still has a lot to prove to me as a head coach. But when I look at J.J. Watt, I'm fantasizing about him with Chandler Jones, who's got something to prove himself and all of that stuff. He only played 1 game last year. We'll see what transpires. It's just that at this particular moment in time, even though we believe in J.J. Watt, I don't think we can look at him and think about anything other than closer to average than elite at this particular moment, even if we believe that will not last because he's with a different organization he's actually interested in playing for that deserves his services. Well,
first of all, closer to average than elite. I just disagree based on the evidence. I said top 10, Stephen. I meant top 10%. He was 15th in 2020 Watt ranked. This is from on ESPN.com, by the way. 15th out of 119 qualified pass rushers in pass rush win rate, according to ESPN stats and information. So 119 guys qualify, and he's top 10%. There are only 14 guys with a better win rate against their pass block. That's elite production. Now, you could say, well, injuries have kept him off the field enough. that you can't consider him really elite because, you know, the best ability is availability. But I also wonder if he can get over the injuries, maybe that's actually affecting him when he's actually playing, right? Because it's not just like acute injury, you come back, now you're 100%. Sometimes you're less than 100%, and yet he's 15th out of 119 that qualify in win rate. He wins his matchup more than almost anyone else. And in terms of Arizona, it's interesting. He and DeAndre Hopkins are back on the same team. And it's almost like J.J. Watt saying, okay, Texans, remember, think of all the icons for that franchise. Andre Johnson, J.J. Watt, and now Deshaun Watson, who have spoken out essentially against the franchise. J.J. Watt goes and joins DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, of course, he got paid. That's number one. But goes and joins DeAndre Hopkins with Kyler Murray. Maybe you show the Texans what might have been. But you said it, Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt, oh, my God. Off either end, that's a whole lot of. And I'm not sure that Arizona won't be the best team in the division. I think it's going to be a very tightly contested division. It's a really good one. But Kyler Murray is still ascending. Matt Stafford, not ascending anymore in L.A. And the addition of a pass rusher like J.J. Watt could be a tipping point on the defense. And DeAndre Hopkins is there. I don't know. I think Arizona is as competitive as anyone in the NFC West.
They could be, but we don't know that for sure because we know that they have a coach that on a collegiate level, he never really won anything. And there was legitimate questions as to whether or not he deserved a head coaching job in Arizona. He's gotten a head coaching job, and they've had some good moments in Arizona. I'll give him credit for that. But in the same breath, we've looked at Kyler Murray. We looked at some of the things that have transpired, and we said, you know what, we questioned whether or not he needed better coaching on the NFL level from time to time, watching him go out on that football field and play against the odds that were stacked against him because of his coach. And so those are things that we have to consider. Again, I'm not trying to call a man incompetent or anything like that. And I certainly wish him nothing but the best. But right now, the only thing we know about Cliff Kingsbury, the head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, is that, man, he's got the flyest home of any coach that we've seen because we saw how he was chilling during the NFL draft last year. We saw that house in Arizona. It was looking pretty fly. That's what he's made most news for since he got the head coaching job. It did look so much
better than everyone else's, Stephen A.
And without question, it was
in a class by itself.
Let me tell you that I wish I had that crib. I mean, it had me saying, well, where the hell is that? I need to look at that crib.
You got good taste.
I mean, that's pretty damn fly. That's about the only thing we've been able to say about him as a head coach on the National Football League level. So, again, they've got some things to prove. I'm not saying he can't. But there were definitely questions about him getting that job to begin with based on his resume. And he's done nothing to quell the cynicism that came associated with it. Period.
Yeah. As far as J.J. Watt, though, the biggest concern on my end would be his health because he's missed quite a few games over the last 5 seasons dealing with a myriad of injuries. And as far as the NFC West, Max, we don't even know who's going to be the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, and that's where we are headed. Russell Wilson interested in the Cowboys, fellas. Former Cowboy Marcus Spears will tell us if he thinks Wilson should go there. Do the fellas... To the NFL we go. We know Russell Wilson's agent told Adam Schefter that Wilson is open to becoming a Cowboy. He didn't demand a trade. Michael Irvin said Russ is coming for Dak's chair, adding fuel to the fire. Let's bring in former Cowboy, my guy Marcus Spears, joining us now. Marcus, top of the morning to you, sir. Where are you? You're coming.
What's up?
There we go.
What's
there
up?
We go.
What's
How
up?
we doing?
I know it's about to go down because it's got the Cowboys in it. So I'm already braced for impact. So y'all go ahead and do y'all thing, Molly. I know you gonna ask Stephen A. or Max first. So let me just.
Well, then why don't you just let her do it? Why don't you just let her do it? Why you got to give a sermon before she speaks? Why you got to give a sermon?
Out there.
Did you talk enough already on Get Up this morning? Ain't you talking this afternoon? You talked on Get Up this morning. You talking this afternoon on NFL Live. Why you got to give a sermon before Molly introduced the question?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Why does he have to give a sermon? You say he's a pastor. What's he supposed to do?
Well, damn it, I don't want it this early.
Thank you, Max.
Not on a Tuesday. Not on a Tuesday morning.
Well, come to the late service.
I always need the good word in my life.
Come to the late service.
Thanks for feeding our spirit.
I know I've seen pastors with better manners. I know I've seen pastors with better manners. I know that much.
Because they want to put on a good public
Are we
face.
done?
I don't care about what the public thinks.
By the way, Molly, do you see his
I'm sorry,
beard
Molly.
just sticking
I
out,
just had to get
sticking
that
out
out
like
there.
that? See the beard sticking out? He usually has it better trimmed, and now it's just sticking out and stuff like that. He trying to be James Harden, but 100 pounds heavier.
The only time you hear beard
When you got
mentions are
friends like
from the
Stephen
guys
A.
that beards don't connect. When you got guys and friends that beards don't connect, that's when they point out full beards.
Got to connect the sideburns.
Full beard guys.
Hey, Molly.
Guys with full beards, we never point out
Yes,
guys
let's keep
without
talking
full
about how
beards.
everyone
But
wants it.
somehow
Yeah.
we always get
Molly,
pointed out.
remember, Molly, I'm over 50. It's time coming. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
Can we do this? Y'all are wild. All right, Stephen A., talk to me. Should Russ want to play with the Seahawks, Pete Carroll, up there, the NFC West? We know what they've done. Or should he come down to Dallas?
Believe it or not, I think he should come down to Dallas. And don't get me wrong, that's not my first choice. We know how I feel from a football perspective. It's the New Orleans Saints. But if you ask him between Seattle and Dallas, I would say Dallas. But I'm not talking about football. And I'm being totally serious here, Marcus, because I said this to Max yesterday. Russell Wilson has been a model citizen. He's been an all-pro. He's been a champion. He's gone to 2 Super Bowls. He's carried this franchise on his back the last 5 years. He's fresh off of a 40-touchdown season, throwing for over 4,000 yards. We know what he brings to the table from a leadership perspective. We know what he brings to the table in terms of his game-changing ability. And what he is off the field is not to be impugned in any way. We see all of that, yet what we're hearing is he wants out. What we're hearing is he had meetings with coaches and he stormed out of the room because he felt summarily dismissed or whatever. And one of the things, Marcus, I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but I brought this up yesterday and I brought it up last week. So we got Deshaun Watson and we got Dak Prescott and we got Russell Wilson all feeling disrespected. I wonder why that is. I really do. I'm wondering why brothers who play the quarterback position and do it pretty damn well, where they all get paid over $30 million, somehow, some way have an issue with respect. I wonder why that is. And so for me, based on that and the fact that Russell Wilson being an experienced dude, and of course we know Sierra's got something to do with this because happy wife, happy life, and ain't no way in hell you could tell me that she wants to just stay in Seattle forever and ever. I don't know, but it stands to reason that if he's talking about moving on, she got something to do with that because I'd listen to her. I'd certainly listen to her. Here's the bottom line. I just have to look at it and I have to say, if Russell Wilson at this stage and point in his career is feeling devalued, lacking respect, and in that regard, that transcends the field of play, and that says something to me, something else is going on, which is why I say might as well go to Dallas, get the high profile, get the cachet, get the notoriety, even though you still got some of it anyway, but it goes to another level in Dallas, and maximize that to your monetary benefit. That's the only reason I say Dallas, not because they're clearly not a better football franchise than the Seattle Seahawks.
After I'm over my shock that you said this, because yesterday I was in shock that Stephen A. Smith would have the nerve to come on national TV and say that a great quarterback in his prime should leave the excellent situation he's in terms of the results, the football results, won a Super Bowl, went to another Super Bowl, wins double digits every year, a lot of years wins a playoff game at least, and go to a dysfunctional situation in Dallas that you routinely lampoon here on First Take and all your various other shows, Stephen A. Now, that's to begin. And by the way, there have been white quarterbacks in recent years who have felt disrespected by their team. Some have left, some haven't. Tom Brady, for example, the GOAT, right? Felt disrespected in New England, let's be honest. Aaron Rodgers, for a while, I think, felt disrespected in Green Bay. Let's be honest. One of them left, one of them didn't. And I will also, that doesn't mean that there are not racial issues going on, Stephen A., with the other quarterbacks. But I would just point out that this is a phenomenon with great and powerful quarterbacks, right? They can feel like, wait a minute, I need to be included more in this. But let's talk about Russell Wilson's situation. You think he feels so disrespected in Seattle, that he should go to Dallas? where there is another African-American quarterback who feels disrespected right now? You think he should go there? What do you think is going to happen with Russell Wilson's team-friendly deal after another, 18 months, not even? It's going to be time to re-up, right? It's going to be time to work out an extension. How do you think that's going to go in Dallas after the way it just went with Dak? Russell got paid in Seattle. Dak hasn't been paid in Dallas. You think that's just going to be smooth? And then there's the football of it all. If you're worried about your offensive line protecting you, do they do that in Dallas? Because that O-line is not going to be the same for a minute. That all-world O-line is gone. How about the defense? Because the Seattle defense was no good. But what about Dallas's? Dallas, for the branding of being a Dallas Cowboy, fine. But I don't think it's about just that for Russell Wilson. I think Russell is so competitive, he wants to be put in a position to win. Dallas does not make sense to me versus Seattle. For that, you stay in Seattle.
Well, to your point, Max, Dallas don't make sense for anybody right now, but Russell Wilson should want to be a Cowboy. And the reason why is because of what Stephen A. pointed out, like that situation. And it's also this, though, like get to the football part. A part of it is Russell Wilson wants to play in a system where he feels like he can put up those MVP level numbers all year long. And we've seen Dallas now, rightfully so, with Kellen Moore, have the ability for that offense to be explosive. That means you win games? I don't know. Russell Wilson right now is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott, but Dak is trending towards being in that conversation if he can continue to get better and be a part of a winning football team. Russ comes with a Super Bowl. He comes with another Super Bowl appearance. He comes with a contract that's favorable for the Cowboys. He also comes with the big name already, to Stephen A's point, that would catapult again that Dallas Cowboys quarterback thought process of everybody else thinking about that particular guy. It is the premier position in the NFL. Yes, guys are better. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is the face. Yes, Tom Brady has had a lot of success and the best to ever do it at that position. But if you have success as a Dallas Cowboy quarterback, you are that guy in the NFL. And Russ may be looking for that as well. But the ability to play downfield, the ability to put up crazy numbers, the ability to win the MVP, and maybe a little bit in the back of his mind, a little bit of competition to say, I'm the guy that can get the Dallas Cowboys to a Super Bowl. I think all of that is a part of his thought process. So I do think the Cowboys are intriguing. I'm with Stephen A. though. The Saints are the better destination between all of the teams that are in this conversation, but Russ leaving Seattle and going to Dallas, in his mind, I believe he would think that that's a better situation from an offensive standpoint philosophically, but also the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, which is what's been a part of the intrigue for Dak Prescott and why I believe he's tried to hold on to this as long as possible without coming out as mad and super disgruntled, because it is the prestige of playing that position for that franchise and organization. But Russ to list the Cowboys, he know damn well the Cowboys ain't in no Super Bowl window. He know that if you play for the Dallas Cowboys, you play well and you play quarterback, you could potentially be in a booth in TV making $17 million a year to call a game for 3.5 hours on Sunday.
That's it. And here's the thing, Max. I mean, listen, I'm known for trolling Cowboy fans. We know how I feel about Cowboy fans, not necessarily the organization. But on this particular matter, I'm not playing. I'm not joking at all. I'm dead serious about it, only from the standpoint that I'm talking about Russell Wilson off the field. I know the Seattle Seahawks is a better situation. I know the New Orleans Saints is a better situation. Even though throwing the ball on Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup, or handing it off to Ezekiel Elliott is nothing to sneeze at. But this is something a bit different. And if you're Russell Wilson and you got to deal with some nonsense, you might as well deal with it being the face of a franchise that's worth $5.7 billion, that's on national TV all the time, and your association with the brand can reap goobs and gobs of monetary benefits for you. You're thinking long term. And if Russell Wilson, who's highly intelligent, has reached the point where he says, you know what, I don't know if I want to be here anymore, that's some serious, serious business, because there's nothing in his history that points to him even remotely coming close to doing something like this, which tells me somebody under Pete Carroll's staff or Pete Carroll himself has greatly, greatly offended this man. And that's what I'm paying attention to here.
And
All right, we'll leave it on that note. Marcus Spears, we'll see you on NFL Live 4 Eastern. Marcus, sorry, we got a hard out because we got Mel Kiper Jr. waiting for us.
Issue.
Yeah, it's not a money issue.
Okay. We'll have you back. Don't worry. We'll talk about it more. All right, Marcus, have a great day. The Tom Brady-Mac Jones comparisons are circulating. Should Bill Belichick trade up to get Mac Jones? Mel Kiper with us on the other side. Mel Kiper has Mac Jones going to the Panthers with the 8th pick in his latest mock draft, but it was a similarity to another quarterback expressed to ESPN's Mike Reese that made a little news. Take a listen.
And I hate to say it, Mike, I mean, he's got a little bit of Brady in him. Yeah. You know, and I'm not saying he's ever going to be Tom Brady. He won't be close, probably. But, you know, you never know. But he's got that competitiveness. He kind of does everything with a smile. And, you know, Brady didn't smile probably as much as he does. But, I mean, he's one of those guys. He's so smart. He picked that offense up in Mobile like it was nothing. And when other quarterbacks were struggling with the verbiage, you know, communicating that in the huddle, he was, boom, in and out of the huddle quicker than anybody I've ever seen.
On a Yahoo podcast, Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa said this about his former backup at Alabama. I would say he's a sly kind of athletic person. He's a more mobile Tom Brady. He's very athletic, very smart too. Whatever team gets him is going to be very lucky. On that note, we bring in Mel Kiper Jr. Mel, great to have you with us. I will get to you in just a moment. Sure. Looking forward to this discussion. So, obviously, we said some similarities with Tom Brady. We know the Pats don't have a quarterback. Stephen A., do you think Bill Belichick should prioritize a quarterback and trade up and get Mac Jones?
Hell yeah. Absolutely. I mean, what are you going to do? Rely on Jarrett Stidham? I ain't going to cut it. Rely on Cam Newton? I ain't going to cut it. You need a quarterback in New England. There ain't no question about it. And if you believe so much in Jimmy Garoppolo, okay, why the hell wouldn't you believe in Mac Jones? The brother threw for 4,500 yards last season. 41 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions, and won a national title. Now, it does help when you got Devontae Smith to throw the football to. You got Najee Harris to hand the football off to and run the football to. Jalen Waddle wasn't really healthy for most of the season, okay? But, you know, when he was available, you had him to throw the football to. And you were coached by Nick Saban. And Nick Saban and Bill Belichick being close, communicating as much as they do, respecting one another as much as they do. Certainly, if you're Bill Belichick, and this is a product coming out of Nick Saban's system, you damn right you should do it that way. But he ain't the only one. I got news for you. If I'm the Jets, I consider it. If I'm the Jets, I'm consider it. If I'm the Philadelphia Eagles at the 6th pick, I consider it now that Carson Wentz is gone and it's just Jalen Hurts there. I consider it all. I'm not ruling anything out right now. That's the way I look at it. And I'll end it by saying this to both you, Mel, and Max Kellerman. The way we've seen Mac Jones play, I want somebody. I understand Trevor Lawrence is another world. I totally get that. Trevor Lawrence is in a class by himself. But I'm trying to figure out, how come we haven't heard more about Mac Jones when it comes to comparisons to a Justin Fields or a Zach Wilson? I'm trying to figure that out. Can you help me out, guys? Please.
Well, let me say this. First of all, Mel, when you compare him to Tom Brady, I'm so sick of people when someone like you or it's someone in the media makes a comparison. Oh, are you saying? You have to stop and say, I'm not saying he's Tom Brady. Listen, dummies, it's okay to use an all-time great as a comparison. It doesn't mean that Mel's saying this guy's going to be as great as Tom Brady. It means he does certain things that remind him of Tom Brady. It's not that hard. And that's saying a lot, by the way. That's a really good thing because Tom Brady just showed once again that the greatest attributes a quarterback can have are leadership and judgment, quick processing, and good judgment and leadership. Those are the greatest assets. And if Mac Jones has that, that says a lot of good things. I'm also impressed that Devontae Smith, who was talked about, as reported, he and Tua talking about running it back in Miami, right? And that could happen. When asked if he'd take Tua or Mac Jones, didn't hesitate, the reports are, he said Mac Jones. That tells me a lot, actually. So let me just say this. If Bill Belichick feels the same way, he needs to trade up and grab him. He needs to get a young quarterback who is going to be the Patriots quarterback for a long time. That has to happen. Even if he feels like it won't be next year that the guy's starting or playing a lot or winning for them, he's got to get that done. But who says it has to be Mac Jones? Trey Lance, who now is, people think may be picked before Mac Jones, but who knows how this works out. Trey Lance has a lot of the things that Belichick likes, but because he can also move, people don't think of it the same way, but quick decisions, quick release. My point, Mel, is if it's Mac Jones, fine. But the main thing is Belichick's got to find a guy he believes in and draft that guy this year.
No question. And the Mac Jones-Tom Brady comparison came up when I looked at Tom Brady when he came as a late 6th-round pick after they drafted somebody with their pick in the 6th round, a cornerback out of Virginia, New England did. Took Brady as a comp pick late in the 6th round. He had a 5.2 4.40. He had a 24 vertical. Those were the two worst vertical 40 time of any quarterback I've ever evaluated outside of Ryan Mallett, and Mallett was drafted by the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick. So when you look at Mac Jones, he's not Joe Burrow. He doesn't have the ability to beat you with his legs and run for first downs, okay? But he slips, he slides, he creates with his legs enough in the pocket to get the ball to those receiving options, as he did in that national championship game when he got the ball to Jaleel Billingsley, tight end, to help beat Ohio State. You think about also Mac Jones, the concern, guys, is only 17 career starts. Okay, that's it. Now, he completed over 77% of his passes. You referenced his touchdown-interception ratio. I've talked about his leadership, his competitiveness, his incredible intelligence. I get all that, his incredible accuracy, but the 17 career starts is the one concern, in addition to being able to move and avoid and create with his legs, okay, enough to get those first downs. In a league now, it's all about mobility and dual-threat quarterbacks. Some have called quarterbacks like Mac Jones a dinosaur. Well, Tom Brady, if he's a dinosaur, he won a Super Bowl with 43. And he was a late 6th-round pick when he came out. I was comparing more Mac Jones to what Tom was when he came out of Michigan, not what he was when he became the greatest of all time. So I think that's why you have to go back and kind of evaluate things as they were, not as they are right now. And when Brady came out, he was a late 6th-round pick for a reason. Right. Ironically, the comp is a top 10 pick. So a late 6th-round pick, now a top 10 pick. Tom Brady has certainly helped Mac Jones, and those comparisons have certainly helped Mac Jones as well.
I definitely agree with you. When I think about Trey Lance at North Dakota State, I'll say this much. Forget, you at North Dakota State. We understand that. It's not Ohio State. It's not Alabama. But 0 interceptions for a season is 0 interceptions. Through 28 touchdowns, not a single interception. So I'll give him his props for that. But here's what I would say to you, Mel. I'm just looking at it right now. And this is where, if I'm Bill Belichick, this is where I got to think twice. I got to think long and hard about Mac Jones, Mel. The New England Patriots at the 15th pick. I'm going to start off at number 4, Mel and Max. I got Atlanta at 4, Cincinnati at 5, Philadelphia at 6, Detroit at 7, Carolina at 8, Denver at 9, Cowboys at 10, Giants at 11, San Francisco at 12, Chargers at 13, Minnesota at 14. From the 4th to the 14th pick, the only teams that definitively don't need a quarterback because they've got their guy are the Chargers at 13, and the Cincinnati Bengals. But even Joe Burrow had the nasty injury, but I think he'll be back. Outside of that, everybody from 4 to 14 arguably needs a damn quarterback.
Yeah, unfortunately,
so to me, if I'm Bill Belichick, and I got an opportunity to move up to get Mac Jones, I might do that, guys, based on that reality alone. To that, y'all say what?
Mel, do you want to take it?
I'd say fine, Max. I think we also have to realize as we force quarterbacks up a lot higher than they should be pushed up the board. That's why from 2009 to 2016, 0 of 22 quarterbacks were with the team that drafted them. You're going back to 2000, of the 44 that went in the first round, up till 2016, only 3 right now are with their respective teams that drafted them. That would be, you look at Tom Brady, that was the 2000, that's why I referenced 2000, but the only 3 are Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, and Aaron Rodgers. That's it. So I think when you look at this, be careful. Like I say, Detroit has Jared Goff. Well, they better draft a quarterback because Jared Goff hasn't proven anything of late, even though he took a team to a Super Bowl early on. No, because we don't know how good these quarterbacks are going to be. We all talk them up, and they all get pushed up the board, and some of them fizzle out to nothing. So let's realize if you're the Detroit Lions, take somebody to help Jared Goff, like a wide receiver like Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith from Alabama, and not take the quarterback. Philadelphia, help out Jalen Hurts. Get a receiver. So this notion you got to take the quarterback, I think is ridiculous.
Well, I would say also that there are some quarterbacks whose talent jumps out at you. And those guys, maybe even if you have, for example, what's happening with the Jets or Giants right now, Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. Even if you have a prospect who you may like, you may look at your own guy and say, is that prospect really better than my own guy? You know, and in the case of Mac Jones, maybe a lot of teams would say no, not in the kind of measurable way that covers me in the event that it doesn't work out. People like to mitigate risk, right? To hedge against risk. And I just think, and I brought up the Giants, I think about Daniel Jones, Mel, Stephen A. They seem married to that guy. Whereas if I were running the Giants and Mac Jones were available, would I want to try that? Sure. But I'm not sure, Stephen A., 4 through 14, that all those teams are thinking that way. I'd say maybe half of them are looking for quarterbacks, and the other half may not like a non-Trevor Lawrence guy in this draft better than what they have right now, whether or not I agree with them.
My only question to you before we get out of this segment, Mel, what about those who would argue that Alabama quarterbacks haven't necessarily been that successful on the pro level? What do you say to that?
Could care less, really. There's always somebody's going to do it. I don't get into all that stuff about with Ohio State and this Justin Fields. Bottom line is, I think you got to go with quarterbacks you know something about. These teams that have Jared Goff and they have Sam Darnold, they know what they have. Goff's played, Darnold's played. They know those guys. You don't know what these rookies are going to be. These young quarterbacks coming into the league. Mm-hmm. That's why it's easy to say, well, they're going to be great because they have these traits. Well, we don't know that. So what you have there, and Daniel Jones, I'd rather have Daniel Jones than these quarterbacks. You have him, you've developed him, you showed signs that he can be really good. You get the talent around him better, and that's the thing. You're looking at a quarterback new, you know nothing about, as opposed to getting a player that can help your incumbent quarterback. That's, to me, is the better way to go. Unless it's Trevor Lawrence or unless you need a Justin Fields. I think the 49ers could use an upgrade over Jimmy G. The Patriots have to get a quarterback. You are at the top of the rung. You are the number one team because of Tom Brady. Now you're the fourth in the division. You've got to find a way to get one of these quarterbacks.
No question. And they currently have that 15th overall pick. Mel Kiper, always a pleasure. Great analysis. We'll talk to you soon. When we come back. The Chiefs' Patrick Mahomes had surgery for turf toe on February 10th and is expected to make a 3-month recovery and return somewhere around mandatory minicamp. According to their general manager, the Chiefs should hope so. Mahomes signed a 10-year deal worth $450 million, unreal, in July, making him one very valuable investment, fellas. Max, I'll start with you. Do you think Mahomes has become the most important person in sports?
In American sports, on the field of play, yes, he has. And I actually think it's been this way for a while. Understand, he started for 3 seasons. 3 seasons as a starter in the NFL. In the first year, he threw 50 touchdowns, very few interceptions, won the MVP, and if not for a pre-snap penalty, goes to the Super Bowl, and I believe wins it that year. Next year, he wins Super Bowl MVP and improves his touchdown to interception ratio. This year, he gets back to the Super Bowl, and without an offensive line, and with a defense who got no pressure on the other quarterback, he lost. But actually, you know whose play I'm going to remember from that Super Bowl? Patrick Mahomes. Not that he was perfect, but I thought he was the most spectacular player on the field. He did things that were just unbelievable. He was pressured more than any quarterback ever in the Super Bowl, like as a percentage of his dropbacks. And by the way, was blitzed less than any. So he was constantly on the run for his life, and no one was ever open, right? I mean, and he was facing a guy where it was just the opposite, almost never pressured, and you know, guys were open as a result. The point is, he lost, but not because of his play. And in fact, his is the play I'm going to remember. That's 3 years. 3 years, 2 Super Bowl appearances, a Super Bowl championship, 3 AFC title games, and I think only a little bad luck keeps him from being 3 for 3. I don't think there's any other player in the NFL where at the beginning of every season, we look at the team and go, them. We like them as at least the odds-on favorites, if not the favorites against the entire field, the straight-up favorites. I've never experienced that as a football fan until Patrick Mahomes. I think on the field of play, he is the most important person in American team sports.
I think that's utterly ridiculous. I think that LeBron James clearly is that guy. 18th season, 36 years of age, and without him, the Lakers would be the New Orleans Pelicans with Anthony Davis. They'd make the first round of the playoffs, they'd go home. If that. That's who he is. That's who he has been throughout his career. And when you take into account the fact that he's done it for so long, I just don't think it even compares. Patrick Mahomes is sensational, and he's a sensational talent. And it wasn't his fault they lost the Super Bowl. I totally get that. but he's not LeBron James in terms of his importance to a team. I don't think it compares. I really, really don't. The Lakers are nothing without him. I look at Tyreek Hill. I look at Travis Kelce. I look at Sammy Watkins. I look at McCole Hardman. I look at Damian Williams and those boys. I think the Chiefs could potentially make the playoffs without Patrick Mahomes. They wouldn't win anything, but I think they could potentially make the playoffs without Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that's the case with LeBron James. Wherever he goes, you're a championship contender. Whenever he departs, you fall by the wayside. And I think when you take that into account and you look at the fact that he's done it over a sustained period of time, the fact that we're even asking this question, in my estimation, is utterly ridiculous. Right now, in his 18th season, at age 36, he's averaging 25.5 points, about 8 rebounds, about 7.8 assists. He's shooting 50% from the field, 35% from three-point range. The Lakers are 24-11, having won their last 2 after losing 4 straight, primarily due to the absence of Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder. I just look at them right now, and I'm like, what's there to talk about? LeBron James clearly is that guy in terms of being the most important player, the most important person in sports. And that's just taken into account on the court of field of play. Off the field of play, it ain't even a discussion.
Well, we're talking about, at least I am, on the field of play. And let me tell you what I find utterly ridiculous, Stephen A. Smith.
Sure.
The fact that in one breath you say, what would they be without LeBron James, the Pelicans? They get to the playoffs and knocked out in the first round, right? Then you said the same thing about Kansas City. In fact, we know what they were with Alex Smith, who was a solid quarterback then, but not great. What were they? They were a team, maybe you could make the playoffs, they're going to get knocked out early. Just like what the Lakers would be if you took LeBron off. I mean, you have to put someone in his place, just like you have Alex Smith in Patrick Mahomes' place. You put an average player in LeBron's place. Maybe they make the playoffs and they get knocked out early. What's the difference? You know what the difference is? You know why Mahomes gets the edge? Because he's playing football. Because in the NBA, a singular superstar has more sway over the fortunes of a team than any player, including the quarterback in football, until Patrick Mahomes came along. Patrick Mahomes has the kind of influence on success as though he is LeBron James or some superstar in the NBA. And I also love how when this topic comes up, you turn it into a Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm not talking about who I'm more impressed by at their age, who's accomplished more in their career, who has total career value. I'm talking about right now. Who's the most important player on the field of play? I'm not going to pretend it's in a landslide. LeBron has an enormous impact, and there are other players too in the NBA who have an enormous impact, including James Harden right now, or Joel Embiid, or a number of NBA players. I don't think there's anyone in the NFL, including Aaron Rodgers, who has the impact that Patrick Mahomes does.
I don't mean to sound like Dave Chappelle when he's imitating Prince, but this bores me. I'm not interested in this discussion.
You're going to make me pancakes now?
I don't agree with you. Yeah, exactly. The pancakes and all of that other stuff. Or, game, blouses and all of that stuff. When Dave Chappelle was imitating, it was hilarious. But in the end, in all seriousness, I just don't agree with you. I think it's LeBron James. I think it's LeBron James literally by a significant margin. We disagree, and that's that. But this doesn't really interest me. This bores me.
I just want to know how many espressos Max has had today. All right,
a bunch.
When we come back here, fellas,
known as Stephen A. Smith.
I can tell you're all fired up, but it's good TV. We're talking big men. Is Joel Embiid a more skilled big man than Shaq? Beard's former team, the Rockets, 7:30 Eastern. Then Steph and the Warriors take on Dame and the Trailblazers, who look to snap a 4-game losing streak. Our coverage starts with Stephen A's pregame Sports Center. That is at 7. Let's stay in the association. With 27 points, 13 rebounds, Joel Embiid has proven himself to be a force within this generation of big men. Last night, he had strong words after matching up with Miles Turner of the Pacers. Take a listen, y'all.
He's a great player, and I have a lot of respect for him, but I say this respectfully, but that's a matchup that I've dominated, my whole, since I got to the league. Great defender, he leads the league in blocks, should be up there when it comes to defensive player of the year, and that's also one of my goals, to be defensive player of the year. So in those type of matchups, that's where you take advantage. You got to take advantage of those matchups, especially if, I have my eyes set on being the defensive player of the year.
All right, Max, I know he was your MVP favorite at one point. I don't know if he still is, but that got us thinking about dominant big men. So I want to ask you this. Do you think Embiid is a more skilled big man than Shaq?
Yes, and I want to be very clear. Shaquille O'Neal was better in his NBA than Embiid is in this NBA. Okay, are we clear? For the same people who want to give Mel Kiper grief because he makes a comparison to Tom Brady. Oh, you can't. Shaquille was better in his day than Embiid is in this day. But if we're just talking skills, yes, the answer is yes. Embiid is a more all-around skillful player. Now, Shaq was an underrated passer. He was a very good passer. I always thought of him as a good passer. But Embiid has become a much better passer. In terms of their dominance in the paint, no one ever was as dominant if they got the ball down low than Shaquille O'Neal. But Embiid, in this NBA in particular, is also impossible. He's a legit 7-footer, Stephen A., 250. He's a 7-footer and a wide body, and he's in shape now. But so the down low skills are there, and he's shooting fewer threes, and he's more down in the paint than before. And as a result, he's at the line more than ever before, and he's shooting 86%. Free throws, much better than Shaquille O'Neal ever did. And even though he's shooting fewer threes, like 2 or 3 a game, 2.5, 3 threes a game, he's hitting them at like 40% or a little better even right now, Embiid. The difference primarily between Shaq and Embiid in terms of all-around skill is Embiid can shoot. In fact, there's never been in the history of the NBA a 7-footer who's a big 7-footer, not a power forward, a center, who can play with his back to the basket with the all-around skills of Embiid. You know, I'm cheating a little bit there because Duncan and Olajuwon more like, a little shorter. Embiid can do everything you want a center to do. He's the most skilled, legit 7-foot wide body ever.
My response to that is Joel Embiid can shoot the ball better away from the basket. He's clearly a better free throw shooter. And so if you want to look at it from a skilled perspective, meaning they're both over 7 feet tall and Embiid could do a little bit more, will I argue with you when you made the points that you make? No, not at all. Here's my retort to it, however. I don't give a damn. It means nothing. Because it ain't about what you can do. It's about what you actually do. And Shaquille O'Neal was 7'1", 320 pounds, was a man amongst boys, and played like it every night for the vast majority of his career. He treated you like the child that you were compared to him. He wasn't some pretty boy with a curly afro pulling up from 20 or 23. He wasn't sitting up there trying to dance and dribble the ball on the perimeter and had to wait until a coach got fired and they got tired of getting swept in the playoffs to learn that you're supposed to have your big butt down low and be a man amongst boys. I recall Joel Embiid going on national television and saying, Shaq's right. Get your big behind back down in the post and be a man. And manhandle these young boys. Because compared to you, they are boys. You making them look like men because you're not playing as hard as you can play. You are not dominating them, which was why Shaq at the time, about a year and a half ago, Max, if you recall, sat up there and said if he had to take off his Superman cape and give it to somebody, it would have been the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo because he goes in the hole and treats boys like they are. Boys. What we're seeing from Joel Embiid now, you applaud him for it, Max. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it because I love Joel Embiid. What I'm saying is that it also illuminates what he hasn't done. But he could have done it all along. Did he gain extra pounds? Did all of a sudden he acquire skills he didn't have? These things that you're seeing from Joel Embiid right now are skills he had last year, skills he had the year before, skills he had the year before that. And when healthy, he still ain't use them. So when you sit up here and you talk about Joel Embiid and what he's doing, what you're missing is that the ultimate indictment against him is that he didn't learn and acquire something new. Doc Rivers came to the Philadelphia 76ers and said, yo, what the hell are you doing? Get the ball and do what you're supposed to do.
You're
That's
talking
what
about.
Doc said.
Look, I
And
respect
that's the difference.
I respect it because you're talking about an attitude. I'm not comparing their attitude. I'm talking about skills.
I'm not saying
and
that
by
you
the
are.
way,
Hold on. I'm not saying that you're comparing the attitude. I'm saying you must. I'm saying you're omitting it and just talking about his skill.
Yeah,
if
because
you have
that's the question.
That's like somebody learning from Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman, you're teaching them boxing. You're teaching them oratorical skills and what have you. And you even invite them to Columbia with you. And then they get on the air and they start mumbling like Shaq. You'd have a problem with that because you know they know better.
But look,
you know they know
Stephen A.,
better.
I understand your point, but I am just talking about skills. I'm making a specific point about skills. At his size, there's never been anyone like Embiid. And in this NBA, Stephen A., the offensive skills are just half of it. He's the best defender in the league probably this year. And think of how versatile you have to be defensively now compared to back in the day as a big today. I didn't think it was possible for a back-to-the-basket type guy, which Embiid can do, to be an MVP. But right now, I think he is. I saw him put a move. I brought this up yesterday. I saw him put a move on Cleveland over the weekend. A step-back, mid-range jump shot, and I didn't know it was Embiid at first. I thought it was a guard or a forward. What? That's Joel Embiid? His skills, we've never seen anything like it in a package like this. And the fact that he can apply it in the modern NBA, both ends of the floor, all I'm saying is we're seeing something new.
Fine. And here's my retort to that. Max Kellerman, Joel Embiid is shooting 52% from the field this year. Do you realize that's the first time in his career he shot better than 50% on the season?
Because he moved inside.
Shaquille O'Neal shot better than 52 or 50% from the field the first 17 years of his career.
Yeah.
17
all high
years.
percentage shots, I get it.
But what I'm saying is, knowing who you are and dominating from that perspective, you gotta, when you look at the skill, I'm saying you could applaud it. I'm saying it's an indictment against Embiid because the skills have been there. You could have been doing this. Philly might not have been
over what he was or what he is now.
Philly might have been to the finals 2 years ago.
You want to give him his flowers for what he is now, or you want to beat him up for what he was?
But we got a guest coming up. I know we could do this all day. It's good. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off, but I got to. All right. We'll take a breath. We might have to revisit this one. Cold star Darius Leonard joining us in just a bit. Max Kellerman, he's real excited about his new quarterback, Carson. Then Friday, the World Series champion Dodgers take on the Royals. That is at 3 Eastern. To the NFL we go. One of this year's biggest offseason moves is Philly sending former first-round pick Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts, where he will reunite with his former OC, Frank Reich. We know they had a lot of success together when they were in Philly. Colts All-Pro linebacker Darius Leonard expressed his approval, tweeting this out, Max. Let's get to work. Welcome to Indy. Can't wait to see what the future holds in the 317. On that note, we welcome in Darius, who just established the Maniac Foundation, and props to you on doing that, Darius, paying it forward. We'll get into that in just a bit. But we need to have some fun, Darius, because Max is a huge fan of Carson Wentz, in case you haven't noticed. Really gives him a lot of props on the show, sometimes mixes it up with Dan Orlovsky about this subject. Tell me why you are so excited to have him as your quarterback.
For one, just playing against him in 2018 and seeing how well he played there and hearing all the great things from, Coach Frank and seeing what type of guy he is. You see he's a God-loving guy, and, he's, from what I'm hearing, he put the team first, and that's what you need in the quarterback. And just to see where he throws the ball around, that's something that you would love to see. He moves out of the pocket. He escapes the pocket a lot. So definitely looking to see what he brings to this offense.
Darius, appreciate you being on the show. One of the things that I'm fond of saying about Carson Wentz, even though I think he had a horrible year last year, is that this guy a few years ago was an MVP candidate. And when I talked to Max Kellerman and we talk about bust, I said bust are people that never had it. You understand? Not somebody who had it and then for some reason lost it. So as an NFL player, if you see a quarterback take a dive like he did this last season, where clearly he's not what he once was, but he's still young at age 28, what's the kind of thinking that you guys have about one of your contemporaries that's just fallen off for a season, particularly at the quarterback position? What's the belief system involved in that kind of thinking?
Everybody, we play this game to be the best each and every year. And, sometimes in life, you're going to stumble. Sometimes, you're going to fall on your back, but you never get judged from you falling on your back. You get judged on what you do when you get back on your feet. And, just seeing the things that, what he's capable of doing. And now he's coming to a new team, new weapons, a great offensive line, a great running core, and a great receivers. And I'm just looking forward to knowing that what he did before his season last year. And hopefully we can have that quarterback come out and hopefully he lead us to the right direction.
Darius, I thought in 2017 Carson Wentz was the best player in the league when he went down with injury. My criticism started in the second half of 2019 where I saw him falling off. I saw a poor quarterback play, but the press lauded him as being great. And I thought, no, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And not only that, he's believing the press clippings, right? You are a great young player. You're not good. You are a great young player. I haven't noticed you reading your press clippings and believing that and slacking off in the slightest. How do you, as a young player, maintain that high level of play without taking things for granted? Because that's the kind of thing Carson Wentz is going to have to do in order to get back to the way he looked. He's going to have to rebuild.
For me, man, my mindset is everybody who talk trash about you, you want to prove them wrong. So, I mean, I look at every negative comment that's said about me. I like it on Twitter. I talk about it, and I use it as motivation because, ever since I was in high school, everybody doubted me. So my goal is to prove that, I belong in this league, and I never take anything for granted because my brother played it, and I saw he tore his ACL, and I know how quickly, this thing could end. So you never get complacent. You just want to continue to be the best and continue to work each day. That's the mindset through it all.
Darius, listen, you're an all-pro. You're in this league. You obviously have friends, contemporaries in this league. And I find it very, very difficult to believe that once you heard about Carson Wentz coming to your team, that you haven't spoken to some people, even including maybe some of his former teammates. What are the kind of things you have heard about Carson Wentz that has you at this point where you're feeling good and you're feeling comfortable about him being your quarterback moving forward? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I mean, everybody I talked to only said great things about him. It was more so he's a great leader. He's a great teammate. He's a great father and a husband. And, that's what you need leading the team. You want somebody who's eager to come in, eager, want to work, want to be great. And like you say, he's coming back with Coach Frank, and Coach Frank, one of the greatest offensive mindsets, I think, in this league. And so with him coming here and everybody saying great things, and I feel like, the Colts have a great team, in all three phases, and we just got to somehow put this thing together. With him leading the charge, I think we should be all right.
Well, I agree with that assessment of your team. Your team was just lacking a quarterback with high-end potential in the playoffs. Probably that wasn't Phillip Rivers at that stage in his career, which is why he's no longer playing right now, and you hope that Carson Wentz can get you over the top. Is that the key? Does the quarterback play need to show up in the playoffs, or are there other deficiencies on the team, which looks extremely well balanced, both sides of the ball, that you guys need to get better at in the playoffs?
For me, man, I honestly thought Phillip played well. And if you look at the Super Bowl, what won that ball game? It was defensive play, and I felt like this year we got to be more consistent on defense. We can't just play one great half of football. We got to play four great quarters. So I mean, if you want to win games in the playoffs, or you want to win the Super Bowl, you got to have a great defense, and that's what we got to do with the coach. We got to be more consistent on defense, and I put all the weight on my shoulder, and I think that's what we got to do to win the Super Bowl.
Darius, let me ask you this. We talked about at the top of the show, J.J. Watt left the Texans and he's going to Arizona. We know DeAndre Hopkins did, and we've heard that Deshaun Watson obviously wants out as well. How do players around the league feel about potentially playing for the Houston Texans? Like, what's that conversation like right now?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I play. I'm all in with the Indianapolis Colts. That's all I talk about, and I'm not too sure exactly what's going on in Houston, but for the Indianapolis, for the Colts, I enjoy it. J.J. Watt's gone, so that's one of the edge rushers that we don't have to worry about. And if Deshaun Watson leaves, that's a great quarterback we're facing twice a year. So if he leaves, that helps us out a whole lot. So I don't know exactly what they got going on. We just got to continue what we can do as the Indianapolis Colts. Let's get 1% better each day.
When all of us watched the Super Bowl, we were shell shocked, not necessarily about Tampa Bay's ability to score 30-plus points on Kansas City's defense, but Kansas City's inability to do anything offensively. We didn't see that coming. And I think that some layer of invincibility was clearly stripped from the Kansas City Chiefs. That's for us as spectators. But as a guy that's playing in the AFC conference that has seen what you have seen from the Kansas City Chiefs, how are you guys, as opponents of the Kansas City Chiefs and anybody else in the AFC, how are you guys feeling about that conference now, particularly with the vulnerabilities you saw Kansas City get exposed to in this past Super Bowl?
We believe that, Kansas City is a great team. And, as you've seen in 2019 when we played them at home, at their spot, and we beat them, it's just more so we got to keep Patrick Mahomes in the well. All his pocket, all his big-time plays, it's a lot of it coming from outside of the pocket. And you saw in the Super Bowl that the Tampa Bay defense kept him in the pocket a lot, didn't allow him to make more time with his feet, and that's when he's most dangerous. So we got to continue, to follow that route, and hopefully, when we face him again, hopefully we can continue to beat him.
Focused and ready to go. I love it. Before we let you roll, tell us about the Maniac Foundation and why you started it.
The Maniac Foundation, I started it because, I'm a guy from a small town. I love to give back. There's so many people who helped me on my journey to get where I'm at. So I wanted to return the favor. And so now I want to come back. I want to help our kids in Indy, in my hometown, Lakeview, South Carolina, to, give back to families in need, especially we want to talk about, people who don't have enough food on their table, getting the kids back into education, making sure they're falling in love with, doing their schoolwork. And we definitely want to, make sure that they're staying healthy, make sure they're active. So, if you want to learn more about the foundation, you go to maniacfoundation.org, or you can follow us on social media, Maniac Cares. That's the Instagram handle. So just got to give back. That's one thing about me. I just love to give back, because you never know what kid needs help. And I was once a kid that needed help. So just as much as I can give back, the much more I can do.
That's beautiful. Props to you. Darius, thank you so much for the time today. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks a lot, bro.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
Guys, former Defensive Player of the Year J.J. Watt joins the Arizona Cardinals pass rush in a deal worth $31 million, $23 million guaranteed. He joins a Cardinal team that hasn't made the playoffs since 2015, tied for the second longest active drought in the NFL. On that note, let's bring in NFL insider Kimberly Martin. Kimberly, good afternoon to you. Where are you? There you are, looking beautiful. I like the coral. I will get to you in just a minute. You know the drill on this show. Start with the fellas. Tell me this, Stephen A. What will J.J. Watt do for the Cardinals?
Well, I definitely think he will improve their pass rush. As a result, I think it'll improve their defense because they got some cats in the secondary who can do some things. And if you got to get rid of the ball quickly, it's going to be that much more, that less amount of pressure on your secondary if you got guys like Watt and Chandler Jones that can get at the quarterback. So I definitely think that's going to be beneficial. But in the end, I think the Arizona franchise comes down to Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury and what they're able to do together offensively. I'm sold on Kyler Murray. I'm not sold on Kingsbury. And so as a result of that, I see them moving up. I see them improving. I see them being in the mix. But do I see them winning the division title? No. Do I see them battling for a wild card spot? Yes. Whether or not they'll capture that remains to be seen. He's definitely an upgrade. We can't dismiss what J.J. Watt brings to the table. Since 2012, Chandler Jones is number 1 in sacks. J.J. Watt is number 2. We get all of that. But in the end, I think that where Arizona goes is going to depend in large part to what they're able to do offensively. That's why Kingsbury is there. He damn sure wasn't there because of his resume. I tell you that much.
I see the NFC West as an arms race. I mean, this is the most brutal division in football in a good way. All these teams are going to be really good, and I think the same thing with Arizona. I think they'll be competitive to win the division. I don't know that they win it. I haven't made my pick yet, but I think they're going to be competitive because now coming into year 3, we should see what starts to look like the real Kyler Murray, like what he is going to be more. That's generally how it happens. The development year is year 2, and then you see what this kid's got, what this young man has got, and so far it seems like he's got a lot. Meantime, DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt might be on a mission to show the Texans. I mean, think of who's spoken out against the Texans franchise. Not just Deshaun Watson, but Andre Johnson, J.J. Watt, every icon on both sides of the ball is like, something's not right here. And now J.J. Watt happens to wind up on the same team that DeAndre Hopkins is traded to. I think they're going to have a lot of fun with that. And then it's also what J.J. Watt can do on the field. He didn't get $23 million guaranteed for no reason. When he is on the field, he, among qualified ends, was top 10%, 15 out of like 109, something like, or more than 119 in terms of winning his matchup. So when he's on the field, just because he's not what he once was, which was top, he'd be on the all-time defensive front seven. He's right there with Reggie White and Bruce Smith and Aaron Donald and Lawrence Taylor. Like he was as great as anyone ever in his prime. So he's not that anymore, but on his way down, he's still better than just about everyone else when he's on the field in terms of the pass rush. And that's going to mean a whole lot if he and Chandler Jones are healthy.
It's interesting because you talk to people around the league, and nobody thinks that, J.J. Watt chose the Cardinals just because this team is a contender. It was about the money. That's what you hear from everybody. And don't get me wrong, if J.J. Watt likes it, I love it because I love people getting as much money as they possibly can. But what can he do for the Cardinals? We're about to see, because their leading sack guy, Hassan Reddick, he could be a free agent. He could be gone. And he had 12 and a half sacks last year. So I understand that J.J. Watt, pair him with Chandler Jones. This is great. Those two together, top two guys that as far as sacks from 2012, those two guys are at the top. I get all that. But when you talk about what will the Cardinals be, I don't think we really know, because they were 8-8. This is a really tight division. Is J.J. Watt the piece that's going to take you over the top? No. As Stephen A. alluded to, I mean, the questions about Kingsbury, they were going on all last year. This offense, them losing 5 of 8 games by 1 score. What's going on with the offense? You've got a great quarterback. Like, what's not working here? I think J.J. Watt is a very good player, but how much will he be on the field? I think the teams that were interested in him wanted to add him, but add him at their price, because the guys had a lot of injuries. We get enamored with names. Like J.J. Watt is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's not going to be that in Arizona. Maybe he proves me wrong, but a lot of people don't think so. And he got a great deal, more power to him. But I don't think any of the teams that lost out on J.J. Watt are sitting there thinking like, damn, we just lost out on the Super Bowl. No, they weren't a J.J. Watt away from winning the Super Bowl. And the Cardinals certainly aren't a team that are just a J.J. Watt away from definitely being a playoff contender and a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah. They're not there yet. They're in the NFC West. Seattle, San Francisco, L.A. I mean, listen, they've been in last place. I see no reason to believe why they wouldn't be in last place again, even with the addition of J.J. Watt. But could they make some noise? Potentially. We'll see. But again, my focus is on Mr. Kingsbury. That's where I'm focused on. I'm sorry, Kimberly. That's just where I'm thinking about.
Let's focus on the money for a second.
You're right.
Let's focus on the money for a second. Kimberly brings up, I think you bring up a good point about how this seems to not be dictated by what gives me the best chance to win. But I don't know, like, where we came to just as a sports culture, right? Where it's like the guy always has to kind of unfairly stack the deck in order to be considered competitive. Is it more competitive if you do what Tom Brady did, which is join a stacked team on both sides that gives you the best chance to win? Or is it more competitive to do what J.J. Watt did, which is to join a competitive team and to see what you can do? In terms of the money, I also think it's kind of funny that fans are like, well, he made a choice for the money. Yeah, the NFL is a TV show, and the playoffs are an even bigger TV show, for which, by the way, you get paid less than the regular season TV show. And the idea that a lot of fans and media have that guys should sacrifice millions and millions of dollars in order to star in a TV show is kind of funny. It's not realistic. The vast majority of athletes who have ever lived, or rational people, do not make that choice. So you got a guaranteed $23 million and you're going to a competitive situation? I don't think he should be criticized simply because he didn't go to a situation where the deck was stacked, where it doesn't matter. They're going to, he could put them over the top. He just went to a competitive situation and got paid.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Max. That, listen, Nobody on this set is going to complain about people giving them money. So that's what J.J. Watt did. Good for him. But I think, again, the conversations with people around the league, they feel like, okay, this wasn't about I need to win a championship. This was I had to get paid, and that's fine. I think that's a good thing. You know, Cardinals, we don't know what they're going to be. They have a lot of question marks. J.J. Watt is going to be their biggest free agent signing. It's not like they have a ton of money left over. So when you think about Reddick possibly leaving and, you know, what other upgrades are we going to see during free agency, I think the draft is going to be key for them just because, you know, it's not like a lot of reinforcements are coming.
Fair enough. To torture the TV